Whatever I see, I shall devour.
Nintendo rarely makes their games realistic in any way. Unlike PlayStation's Gran Turismo, their most beloved racing series was very unique when it came out. It still is today. I know what you're thinking. Mario Kart, right? Well, not exactly. I know this game wouldn't exactly be a system seller, but pretty much any Nintendo fan who owns a Wii U would go out and buy it as soon as possible. F-Zero almost always has the best visuals on the system it comes out on, so just imagine what it would look like in HD. Then again, graphics don't really matter. I admittedly haven't played any F-Zero game yet, so I'm not 100% sure what the gameplay and story would be like, but as long as it isn't the exact same thing as the last game, just with updated graphics, then I'm perfectly fine. Of course, there would also be new racers, hopefully a story mode, online multiplayer, and possibly even the ability to play as a Mii and design your own car. Sadly, Miyamoto himself said that he wasn't working on a new F-Zero anytime soon, so chances are the series is going to end up just like it first found, which really sucks.
Whatever I see, I shall devour.
Mario made the jump to 3D. Zelda made the jump to 3D. Heck, even Bubsy made the jump to 3D. Worst PlayStation game ever. So tell me why Yoshi hasn't had a 3D game yet. And before you say there already is one, I don't mean a Yoshi game with 3D objects. I mean one where you can walk in all directions rather than just left and right. Okay, I know that Super Mario 64 DS allowed you to play as Yoshi, but the level design made it obvious that it wasn't supposed to be a main entry in the Yoshi series. This would be higher on the list, but luckily Yoshi's New Island is going to be released this March, and Yarn Yoshi is coming out for the Wii U as well, so it's not like we need the game right now. Still though, if Bubsy can have a 3D game, I'm pretty sure Yoshi can too.
You can also shoot atoms in this game. It makes so much sense as jumping on enemies in a 3D plane is too difficult. Mario punches, squirts and spins at enemies, Sonic has a homing attack, but Bubsy's atom throwing is much more faster and much more effective than those other attacks. Bosses in Super Mario 64 were so easy. The bosses in Bubsy 3D meanwhile have good challenge to them. Since the control is good, the bosses have genuine challenge to them. The level themes are so great in Bubsy 3D. Checkerboards are all the rage and are always going to be the best level theme ever, so it's great that every level is a checkerboard theme.
Whatever I see, I shall devour.
Many of you probably saw this coming from the start. People have been begging for a new Starfox game since the original Wii came out, and that was in 2006. And I don't mean another Zelda clone, I mean an actual space shooter. I know that lately Starfox has been trying to be all plot heavy and whatever, but honestly I'm fine with just Andross returning as long as the game itself is good. They could also integrate the gamepad by giving you the option to shoot with the touchscreen. And I said the option, there would be a fire button as well. Oh, and imagine all this, just with online multiplayer. Hopefully they won't screw it up like they did with Battle Revolution. Like F-Zero Wii U, it probably wouldn't be much of a system seller, but trust me, it would make money. Oh, and be sure to tone down the wing damage a little bit. I always hated that.
Whatever I see, I shall devour.
Rare was one of the most successful, and screw it, Banjo 3. Like Spyro, I like the Banjo games, just not really that much. Still though, Banjo-Kazooie is easily one of the best platformers on the Nintendo 64, and is still fun today. Sure, it was rather difficult, but it was a fair challenge. Not too many difficulty spikes, a good camera, and an opening level that helped you get used to the style of gameplay. Hey Microsoft, why not get someone else to make Wii Sports rip-offs, and get Rare to make another Banjo game? And I don't mean a Banjo game where you go around in a beaten-up car, I mean an actual platforming and item collecting game. Luckily, the Xbox One may get a Banjo-Kazooie game. I mean, they made another Killer Instinct for it. Sure, it wasn't Rare who made it, but it is still possible that the new Xbox could get a real must-have game other than just Halo 5.
Whatever I see, I shall devour.
Okay, I know this is just personal preference, but Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door could easily be considered one of the greatest games of all time. People liked it so much, it got 2 sequels, both of which were disappointing. Super Paper Mario was okay, but Sticker Star may very well be one of the worst ever Mario games. What the series needs is another RPG, and I mean a real RPG, one with leveling up partners in this thing called strategy. Of course, The Thousand Year Door 2 can't just be the same game with a different story. No, it needs to improve and expand upon the gameplay. I have a few ideas myself, such as the ability to bring out 2 partners at once, the ability to swim finally, and maybe a Shy Guy partner. Oh, and introduce a new villain this time, not just Bowser again. Keeping intelligent systems from designing any characters of their own and not adding any new enemies is easily one of the only times Miyamoto has actually made a game worse.
Whatever I see, I shall devour.
Croc, Legend of the Gobos is easily one of the most underrated games out there. It was a 3D platformer released for the PlayStation, PC, and Sega Saturn, and is easily the most nostalgic game I own. It got its own sequel, Croc 2, but after that, it just vanished. Now don't get me wrong, I realize that in the world of generic shooting games and realistic sports titles that never seem to go away, Croc 3 might not do so well. However, if it's released for the PlayStation 4 or Xbox One, it may be able to attract the younger audience to these systems as well as adults. I know this probably isn't going to happen, but it would be nice to see one of my favorite platformers of all time finally get the third installment it deserves.
Whatever I see, I shall devour.
Earthworm Jim is a weird game. I haven't even played it yet and I already think this. Of course, it was also a very popular game, one of the most beloved SNES platformers in fact. Sure, it got a remake for the Xbox Live Arcade and PlayStation Network, but we haven't had an actual sequel since 1999, and not a really good one since 1995. So now that Double Helix Games is preparing games for the 8th generation, why not release Earthworm Jim 3? Games these days make too much sense, they're too realistic. It's like nobody has any freaking imagination anymore. Just think of what kind of weird things they would make Earthworm Jim do now. Maybe he could shoot radioactive puppies out of a bazooka or something. I don't know.
Well done.
Whatever I see, I shall devour.
I think you can all agree that Battletoads is a hard game. Maybe even the hardest game of all time, but chances are you know that already. I'm dead serious when I say that level 3 of Battletoads may very well be the harshest difficulty spike in any video game. Still, this was a great game, and IGN even labeled it as one of the greatest games on the NES. In fact, Battletoads seems to have grown in popularity over the years, but it never got a true sequel. I could kind of see why Rare wouldn't make it now, as they're probably too busy ripping off Wii Sports for Microsoft. But why didn't they make another for the Super Nintendo or N64? But I digress. Battletoads 2 is at the top of this list because these days, games have gotten way too easy. Of course, there are some exceptions such as Donkey Kong Country Returns, but still, not only are the games too easy, but they're way too forgiving. I'm not saying that you should start back up at the title screen if you die once, but in Super Mario 3D World, when you lose all your lives, you start back at the beginning of a level rather than 2 or 3 levels ago. It's even worse in games like Kirby's Epic Yarn or LEGO Star Wars because you can't possibly die. If they make Battletoads 2 a 10th as hard as the original, then anyone who picks it up is gonna be in for a challenge.
A little kick. That's not a little kick, Mario! Learn how to play football! Now, I'm not so sure what was in those durians, but I think these ones are more higher quality durians, because those durians were slightly broken. How can it be so hard to get a spiky fruit into a basket? Look, it's right there. Come on.